Welcome, ghouls, ghosts, and mere mortals to the Hidden Creek Manor. Now, with the Halloween season quickly approaching, it's time to start planning our haunt. And every year at the end of the season, I like to take note of what worked, what didn't work, what I'd like to add, what I'd like to change. And I'll try to work on some projects here and there throughout the year, but come late August, early September, it's time to really buckle down and start planning this year's haunt. What can we realistically add this year? And then what do we need to push off to the future? So we're going to break this video up into two separate parts. The first part of this video, we're going to take a look at this year's haunt. We're going to go over the planning, and we're also going to take a look at the new features that we're adding. In the second half of this video, we're going to look at future plans to add to the haunt for years to come. So let's get started, and we're going to begin with mapping out our haunt. So I've mapped out our haunt into 6 separate themed zones throughout the yard. We have the Hidden Creek Cemetery, Zombie Outbreak, Scarecrow's Harvest, Halloween Town, the Forbidden Forest, and Kraken's Cove. And then we have our house, where we have our projection and light show. Now, I prefer to have themed zones because it allows me to tell a unique story in each section. Plus, it pulls everything together. There aren't just a bunch of random decorations all throughout the yard. First, let's take a look at the Hidden Creek Cemetery. Now, this is one of the zones that I'm most excited about for the future. I have a lot of ideas to expand this zone into something special. Now, currently, our cemetery is pretty basic. Most of our tombstones are store-bought, our cemetery fence is only about 1 foot tall, and we have a couple of lights, but that's pretty much it. So this is the zone that I currently have the most future plans for. But this year is still going to be pretty basic with the new additions. For this year's haunt, we will be adding a few additional homemade, larger tombstones. We're adding a few monument busts, repainting a few of the store-bought tombstones to make them look more realistic, and adding a couple lights. Now, if time permits, I may be adding a coffin with animatronics and lights, but that'll probably end up being the next year's haunt. So let's move on to the Zombie Outbreak, and I gotta be honest, this is probably my least favorite zone right now. There's not much going on. I don't have any plans to expand this zone this year, and partially because it's sandwiched between the cemetery and the house, and it doesn't really get much attention anyway. Now, I do have a few ideas to add some additional features in the future, but for this year, the section will probably stay the same. I have a couple of zombie heads on stakes, a few hands and legs breaking through the ground, a giant light-up zombie hand, a zombie body tied to the tree, our zombie pallet, and a few signs, but like I said, I have future plans that will be covered later in this video, but if any of you have ideas to share for a cool zombie feature, share it in the comments section below. I'd love to hear from you guys. Now let's move on to one of the more kid-friendly zones, the Scarecrow's Harvest. Now, in order to get candy, trick-or-treaters have to walk up our driveway and then down our path in front of the house. So we wanted to be mindful of the little ones. So the 2 zones of our haunt that are closest to this path are not meant to be scary. The Scarecrow's Harvest is more of a fall decoration. We have hay bales, pumpkins, jack-o'-lanterns, our friendly animatronic scarecrow, and we talked about adding a larger, scarier scarecrow to this section, but I'm hesitant to add anything that would deter little ones from trick-or-treating. So this zone is pretty much complete as it is. We may add a few more pumpkins or jack-o'-lanterns this year, but pretty much it. The next kid-friendly section of our haunt is Halloween Town. Right now, this is the least organized zone in our haunt, but it is one of the sections that I am the most excited about expanding on in the future. Now, originally, this zone was our section for any decorations that didn't fit into any of our other zones, but last year we started adding a few characters from The Nightmare Before Christmas, and we realized we can have a large Halloween Town section. This way, not only can we incorporate all of those random decorations, but we can also design a bunch of props and animatronics to make this a fun section full of Nightmare Before Christmas characters and references. Now, this section does have the most room for improvement, but this year we're only going to make a few changes. We are improving our lock, shock, and barrel characters. We're adding some additional lights, but most importantly, we're adding a 13-foot Jack Skellington animatronic. Really excited about that. Next up is the Forbidden Forest. Now, the idea with this zone is to give our wooded section of the yard a spooky forest vibe. We have ghosts and spiders and witches throughout the zone, and This year we aren't really adding much to the zone, just expanding on some of the existing features and fixing some structural issues from years past. We may be adding a jumping spider animatronic to the zone. I still haven't made up my mind yet on that one. But we are mostly going to be switching out the fishing line, what we hang our ghosts from, with a thicker, stronger line. I'm also going to be fixing our witches. They aren't really made with the highest quality materials and they keep breaking and falling over, so we're going to get that taken care of. And we're also going to be adding more spider webs and lights to this zone. And the final zone is Kraken's Cove, our pirate-themed section of the haunt. This zone is front and center in our yard and has received the most attention so far. And I really wanted to make sure it stands out since it is the most prominent zone right now. We have a sinking pirate ship, quite a few skeleton pirates, pirate drinking in a barrel, a pirate on a makeshift raft trying to get away with his treasure, and of course, the Kraken that sunk the ship. This zone is almost complete, with only a few more items to add in the future. For this year, just want to add a few more water lights, fix our lights that spotlight the Kraken, and add a crow's nest on top of the sail, and maybe touch up the bronze mermaid skeleton on the front of the ship, if time permits. I also wanted to talk about the projection show. Now, in years past, we had one 10-minute show that looped throughout the night. There would be 10 minutes of downtime with the haunt lights on, and then 10 minutes of the projection show with the haunt lights off. Now, this worked, but the problem with the 10-minute show is that most people won't stick around for the whole thing, especially if they're trying to trick-or-treat on Halloween night. So this year, we're completely revamping our approach. Instead of one 10-minute show, we are doing 6 5-minute shows. The projection will loop with 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off, and because we're expanding to 6 shows, we're doing 3 with all new material, and then 3 greatest hits from previous years. We also added a second projector this year to brighten the projection against the house. So now that we've gone over the plans for this year's haunt, let's talk about future plans for each zone. Hidden Creek Cemetery is one of the zones I have the most plans for. First, I want to add a cemetery fence with stone columns, an arch, big gate. I want to do it around the whole section. I want to add a lot more custom-made, realistic tombstones, and I want to place the tombstones in a way where I have the larger tombstones up front, and then have some of the smaller tombstones toward the back. I don't have a huge amount of room to work with in this section, so I'm really hoping that by spacing out the tombstones in this way, it will create an illusion that the cemetery is much larger. I'd love to add a mausoleum in the back. We'll see if that ever happens. Definitely want to add some more statues and revamp some of our older store-bought tombstones with some additional features. I would also like to add some spooky dead trees with some possible animatronic crows, maybe some Spanish moss hanging from them, some lanterns hanging from the trees. I'm thinking about adding a caretaker, similar to the one from Disney's Haunted Mansion ride. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to incorporate a Pepper's ghost technique to make it look like there are ghosts flying around in sections of the graveyard. For the zombie outbreak, I only have a couple future plans right now, but as I mentioned earlier in the video, any suggestions are welcome. Currently, I'd like to add a groundbreaker animatronic zombie, a few life-size zombies that are possibly animatronic, and a cage zombie animatronic that looks like it's trying to break free. Now, the Scarecrow's Harvest Zone is pretty much complete. I may add some additional singing jack-o'-lanterns, maybe some corn stalks, and some more pumpkins, but that's pretty much it. Halloween Town is the zone with the most future plans. Because it's the newest of our zones, we haven't had a lot of planning yet, but I would like to add a giant Welcome to Halloween Town archway over our driveway, maybe Zero with his doghouse, some more characters for the Nightmare Before Christmas, add some music, more props that look like they came straight out of Nightmare Before Christmas, maybe an animatronic of the mayor with his head spinning. I'd like to add a fence to the back of the zone with jack-o'-lanterns spiked onto the fence, and figure out a way to really blend the additional random decorations in with the new ones. The Forbidden Forest has the potential to be something really cool and unique. Since it's currently a mix of spiders and ghosts and witches, I want to continue expanding with those same features. I want to add a giant spider with a lot more webs. I want to add a couple flying ghost features that will fly back and forth throughout the forest. But I really want to expand the witches. I want to add a hanging cauldron that lights up and bubbles. I want to add a witch animatronic stirring another cauldron. and I really want to add a creepy old witch's cottage. I also want to add a border around the forest to keep people from trying to walk around and possibly break something or get hurt. I still haven't decided how to accomplish this yet. Currently, I'm leaning towards setting up maybe webs strategically around the spiders and ghosts, and possibly an old wooden fence made out of small branches around the witches. If you guys have ideas for this, I'd love to hear them. For Kraken's Cove, there are only a few additional features that I want to add. First, I want to add a border around the zone to keep people from messing with the decorations. My plan is to use PVC painted to look like wood with ropes going between them to give it a nautical look while also keeping viewers out. I want to add a cannon that looks like it's firing at the Kraken. I'd like to add more Kraken tentacles attacking some of the other pirate skeletons. I want to add a ship wheel with animatronic skeleton to make it look like he's trying to steer the ship. I want to add a pirate skeleton sitting on a pile of gold coins, similar to the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland. And I want to add a ship captain ghost illusion. I attempted this last year, but I had to scrap it temporarily, but I still want to add this feature in the future. The projection show changes every year, so I have a lot of plans for future segments. I'd really like to invest in better projectors and add more. Eventually, I'd like to have projectors that expand beyond just the house and make their way into other parts of the haunt. Now, this is quite a lofty goal and will require a lot of work and a lot of programming, so this will be something that takes quite a bit of time to expand on. Now, part of the problem I'm currently running into with is that when you're projecting on dark sections of the house, it just doesn't work well. The black shutters often don't show the projection properly, and the stonework absorbs a lot of the light as well. So I'd like to build temporary covers for the shutters with black projection paint, and possibly add an automatic screen that comes down each night to cover the stones. So there you have it, folks. Those are the plans for this year's haunt and a little sneak peek into the future. Now, here at Hidden Creek Manor, things are always evolving and changing, so don't be surprised if you see some of these plans change. New things might get added, some of the items might get scrapped. It happens. But we are going to be releasing additional videos with more in-depth looks into the different zones that we're setting up. So if that's something that sounds interesting to you, consider subscribing to the channel or click on the little bell icon to be notified of any new videos that we release here at Hidden Creek Manor, so that way you can stay up to date with us. But that's going to do it for this video. Happy haunting. We'll see you in the next one. Congratulations. You made it to the end of the video. As a reward for sticking around, you may now watch one of these two videos. The choice is yours, but choose wisely.